Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. Look here. This is going to be part three of my brother's keeper right now. Look, Frederick, he goes back to his cellar after he almost dies, right? And begs him for help because his cellar said he can't deal with this anymore. He's tired of all the drugs and all of the ups and the downs and all of these things that's going on with that, right? So he tells him he has to go. But he begs his seller to help him to make it these next few months so he can get reclassed and be sent down there to the other facility with his brother Bobby. And he agrees, but he tells Frederick that he's going to have to, what I'm saying, he's got to face his demons, that he can't get any help if he's not going to be honest with himself. Now, he agrees to this, but let's see how this turns out, y'all. Let's see if Frederick really means what he says and says what he means in this situation, right? Because when you're dealing with these drugs, it's a hard thing, right? And most people relapse several times when it comes to this heroin, especially this heroin, okay? So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show, y'all. And check it out, y'all. Frederick, he's working on himself. He's trying to do all the things that he needs to do to kick this habit finally for good and stay off of these drugs. But you know how it is when you have an addiction, especially one like heroin. So here's the thing. Every day, his cellie has a routine. He works out, he reads, he studies. He does his Bible study. He uh, plays basketball. He's very active. His routine is to stay active, and the day goes by. You know what I'm saying? And he ends his night by cooking a nice meal for himself, and then laying back and reading and watching some TV. He keeps it very simple. It's worked for him for years, and he thinks it will work for Frederick as well. But he doesn't have a habit. Frederick does. And one thing you don't, if you're a drug dealer anyway, one thing you don't like as a drug dealer in prison is when somebody gets clean. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. It's always a good thing when people get off dope. Yeah, unless you're the drug dealer. Yeah, unless you're the drug dealer. You don't want nobody to get off the dope. You want them to stay on it all the way. You feel me? Because why? It's your money. It's how you get down. And you want your bread. So here's the thing. When he quit doing that half, that don't mean the heroin dealer quit messing with him. Because now this heroin dealer, in addition to uh, being his dealer, in his mind, he thinks there's more going on because why would a man do what he's done to him unless he was into him? Now that's how twisted his mind is. He's manipulated and used and taken advantage of Frederick's sickness to get him to do things that he would not normally do. And he thinks that they got something going on. And he uses that as leverage against Frederick. He threatens to put his business out there on the street. Now keep in mind, it's one thing for people to assume that you're doing something. It's another for them to know. Because up to this point, the heroin dealer hadn't told anybody other than his little clique that Frederick was doing what he was doing. Right? So here's the thing. He bumped down on Frederick and tell him, look, we ain't got to do that no more. And I'm going to just let you pay for it the regular way. Get your money, wash my clothes, whatever, right? But here you go. This is on the house. Now, when he gives it to him on the house, his seller happens to come in. And he said, what's going on? So the heroin dealer said, look, this is our business. Stay out of our business. So his seller, he looks over, he sees the hair on the desk. He said, man, get that and get up out of here. Get that and get up out of here. So dude tell him, look here, man, this is our business. You stay out of our business. He said, first of all, get out this cell and don't come around here no more with nothing and take that with you. So Frederick Seller said, you tell him. So Frederick looked at him and he told him, he put his head down, he said, I don't want it. Now some people would look at that as like a defeat, but I don't. Because when he was telling me that, I said, why did you put your head down? And he said, I put my head down because I really wanted it. I said, dig it, I get that. As much as I can understand that. He said, but I knew if I would have took it, it would have been all over again. So when dude walked out of the sale, he grabbed his dope. He said, remember what I told you now. Our secret is our secret. Right? Now, let me make sure I paint this picture for you. In the penitentiary, it's one thing for people to assume. It's another for them to know. Now, everybody's assuming because they know dude is with this heroin dealer is with this, making people perform on sex only for dope. But don't nobody know for sure. Ain't nobody heard out of Frederick's mouth. So that night, while they were talking, because his seller, he wants to help him face his demons, help him understand that it's not as bad as you think. It's not going to be as bad as you think. You feel what I'm saying? People are still going to love you. Because that's what's in the back of Frederick's mind. He's trying to understand who would love me. Who would love somebody like me? Somebody that has killed somebody and somebody that's doing the things that I'm doing to get high so I can escape. Nobody's going to love me when they know the truth about me. Nobody. But his seller told him, he said, look, man, what's really going on, man? So his seller's understanding what's going on in his mind. So he said, I'm going to tell you what I think's going on. Because his seller been locked up for a minute. He know how this thing go. So he said, look, everybody says that you down there doing what you're doing to do, performing oil on. So he looked right at Frederick. He said, is it true? He stared him in his eyes and he stood up. And they got face to face. Frederick dropped his head. He said, man, look at me, man. Look at me. So Frederick raised his head back up and he looked at him, tears coming out of his eye. He said, is it true? He said, yeah, it's true. So his seller looks at him and stares at him. He said, you know what? It don't matter. So Frederick break down and start crying and he grabs him and hugs him. They're standing in the middle of the cell and he's telling him it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Frederick bawling like a baby. Got me about ready to bawl now, retelling the story. Because it's real. Because it's real, y'all. So while they're standing in the middle of middle of the cell, and he's holding him like that, this is not some sickness. This is one man saying, I got you, my brother. I got you. And we're going to do this together. So, later on that night, his seller, he fixing a meal. He ain't saying another word about it. But Frederick, he's quiet. He's going through it. He's battling with himself. Because like he told me, he said, now I said it out my mouth. Somebody else know. What is he thinking about me? I know what he told me, but in the back of Frederick's mind, he's thinking that his seller thinking he weak, he's a sucker, he's this, he's that. It's all the guilt, all the shame is coming back to him. It's all on top of him. It's real heavy. And he don't know what to think. He don't want to even believe that this man just told him it's okay, it don't matter. He don't want to believe that. That's them demons. It's them demons telling him, nah, you ain't straight. You a sucker. You weak. He's listening to those voices. He's listening to those voices. And it's breaking him. Now, his seller, being the vet that he is, he tell him, look here. I know what you're thinking. And it's going to be okay. He fixing the meal. He fixed some of that hash, right? Now in here, that penitentiary hash. Now let me tell you about that penitentiary hash, y'all. I talked about this in one of my other episodes. I can't remember which one it was. But look at that penitentiary hash. This is what you do. You get you some onions. And you saute them onions with a little butter if you can get it. In here, butter, you got to get it how you got to get it. You feel me? But you saute them onions in that hot pot. Get them to where they start to caramelize. Y'all didn't think I knew what that was about, did you? That caramelization. Get them onions so they start to caramelize. And this is what you do. Then you drop on top of the onions, because we got to cook in a hot pot. We ain't got it like y'all out there, so I don't want to hear it. I know y'all cooking out there, but we got to do what we got to do. You take some of that tuna fish, you put it right on top of them onions, and you stir it. You can hear it on the bottom, because it's that steam, it's cooking it. You want to stir it, get them onions mixed real good inside that tuna fish. You feel what I'm saying? Get it mixed real good. And it's stirring. You can feel that. You can feel the heat coming up off that thing. Then you add a little bit more water, a little bit more water. You don't want it to get too soupy. You add a little bit more water. Now when it get chunky like that, you see it, lean over and get you a good sniff. Oh yeah, you smell it. Put a little pepper in, a little salt, just a little bit. You don't want to do too much salt, especially, you know what I'm saying, you got high blood pressure like me. You know what I'm saying? Woo! Then you get your oodle noodle. Crunch that thing up real good. Crunch it up real good. 2 of them. And you drop over in there, and then you pour that water on the top. Have that water set slightly above that oodle. Then put that top on that thing. Put that top on that thing and let it cook. Now notice I didn't say mix it. I said let it cook, because that's going to drop. Bam! Let it drop. And then, after it's done cooked about 5 minutes, you get you a spoon that's long enough and strong enough, right? Stick it down there, and then you whip that thing. You whip that thing. You flipping it. You flipping it. Now you want to get that tuna and them onions mixed good in, get them noodles spread all the way throughout that thing. And boy, put that black pepper in there. I'm talking about put that black pepper in. And then, if you want to get real wild, get you some jalapenos, chop them things up like that there, and put them in there and spread it out through there and mix that thing up. Put a little bit more water in it, put that lid back on it. By now, there's smoke coming up out of there. The whole pot smelling good. Now see, that's what he said it cooked for him. So Frederick, he like, man, you burning. You burning up in his thing. Look at my mouth watering thinking about it. I need to fix me one of them tonight. But anyway, they sit down and they eat. And he's talking to him. And he come clean with Frederick and tell him something. He said, you want to know how I know so much about what you going through? And Frederick was like, yeah, man. He said, because it seems like you know every move I'm about to make, everything that I'm feeling, every thought that I'm thinking. He said, because I've been there. Been there, done that. Been there, done that. He told him he had been on heroin, been on cocaine, he'd been on meth, he'd been on everything. And he said, you think you did something for that dope. He said, I went even further than you. Ain't but one step further. Ain't but one step further, y'all. Y'all know what that is. He said, I hit bottom, but I had to have it. But when I got clean, what I realized is that I didn't. I didn't need it. I didn't have to have it. And he said, right now, you don't understand that, but you will. You're going to get there. You're going to learn that you don't need it. But he said, you got to give yourself time. And it's going to hurt. Because you got to face all of the things that you've done. He told Frederick, he said, I'm in here for life. I got a life sentence without parole. See, in Tennessee, you got life with, life without. The sentences are so long, it's hard to break down the differences, but you got life with, life without. He had life without. What that means, y'all, is that the only way he was going to be leaving prison for good was in a box. Unless the governor, somebody, something happened that changed the circumstances of his case. He would die in prison. But he didn't want a pity party. He decided that what he was going to do was help as many people as he could until that day came. And that's what he was doing. And he left all the drugs alone, left all the nonsense alone, And now he's got a routine that occupies his day and doing good. And he wanted Frederick to know that it's possible. He had an 8-year sentence. He was going to get out unless something happened. He'd still be in his 20s when he left. Plenty of life to live. And to continue to beat himself up the way he was beating himself up was not going to benefit him or his family when he went home. And he wanted him to understand that. So Frederick and his seller, they sat there and they talked, ate that old hash. And later on that night, when Frederick was laying in the bunk, asleep, he started to pray and thank God for his cellie. And thank God for his mother and his father and his brother. Because he thought about all of the things, what had gotten him to this point. And he was struggling with how he treated his mother and father. And he decided right then and there that night that when he got up that next morning, before he even went to work, he was going to call his mom and dad and apologize to them. So when the morning came and the doors popped, this is exactly what he wanted to do. He got straight on their phone and called his people and apologized, crying. Now you notice it now. Let me tell you something. When you clean it up on the inside, it has to come out. So when you go through something like this and you're doing a lot of crying, guess what? It's a cleansing. It's a purging. So let it out. Let it out. Because that's what Frederick was doing. But again, like life, just because you're getting it together, don't mean that the people that were benefiting and manipulating and using you are going to leave you alone. Don't mean that. Something I heard a long time ago, man, is you build your house on a solid foundation or sand. The reason it should be built on a solid foundation, I'm speaking in metaphors here, is because no matter your point in life, your stance in life, trouble is going to come. And you don't get to pick and choose when it comes. So if you build your house on sand, relying on drugs, relying on lying and deceit, running away from your problem, that's sand, y'all. You rely on that and other examples of it. Think about your own life, not being responsible. All of this living your life on a foundation of sand. And when trouble comes and you don't get to pick when it comes, guess what's going to happen? You're going to stumble. Your whole foundation is going to be wiped away. You're going to be doing whatever you got to do. It's going to make sense to you to go sell drugs. It's going to make sense to you to mortgage your body for some drugs. It's going to make sense to you to go rob somebody. It's going to make sense to you to go do all the types of things that are going to cause you to cause pain to somebody else to get out of it. It's going to make sense to you when you build your house on sand. But when you build your house on a solid foundation, when trouble comes, you'll be able to withstand that. A solid foundation is being responsible, caring about your neighbor, caring about yourself, being responsible with money, being responsible and loyal to whoever you are with, being responsible to your family, your kids, being a role model, being a pillar of the community. That's a solid foundation. Because trouble is going to come to all of us. It's how we deal with it. It's going to make the difference. So Frederick was starting to understand that. And as he come to understand it, I'll never forget that look that he gave me when he was talking to me about what I'm telling y'all. That light was in his eyes, and I saw it. Like I said, I have quit writing down my notes for what I was going to put in the magazine, and now I'm just listening to him. Because the story, it was just captivating me. It was this transformation taking place. But like I said, just because you're getting it together, don't mean that people are going to back away from you. The people that were benefiting from you, they're going to keep coming because they think that if you fail weak once, you're going to fall weak again. If you feel shame and guilt about whatever's going on, all they need to figure out is how to tap into that again. Remind you of that. See, that's why it's important. That's why it's important, y'all. You know, we think about a lot about secrets. But see, a secret ain't gonna secret if somebody else knows it. And you be careful about who knows your secrets. Because if somebody that don't mean no good to you knows your secrets, they believe that they can use that against you to get you to start to feel the way they want you to feel about yourself. See what I'm saying? So this dude that Frederick had been performing oral sex on for dope, he knew the secret. And he confronted Frederick with that. But I'm not going to tell you about that until the next episode. So you got to tune in. Tune in, y'all. It's getting good, ain't it? I know it is. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.